Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Granada for EU4 1.36 King of Kings. So Granada is a nation located in the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula, and it is the last Muslim nation over in Iberia, and we also start off with a core on the province of Ceuta, which is owned by Portugal. Now, many newer players are deterred from playing Granada due to its pretty difficult start, and honestly I can't blame you. I do think it is one of the more difficult nations over in Europe, but by securing some careful alliances and by doing some careful expansions, you will be secure, and these Iberian guys won't be declaring on you. You'll be growing your power base elsewhere, and then when you're strong enough and when you have enough allies to help you, you will be declaring on the Iberian nations and reconquering Iberia after they reconquered it from you. Granada has pretty good national ideas, starting off with plus 15% national tax and plus 25% religious unity, finishing off with minus 10% idea discount. And in the meantime, we have plus 3 tolerance of heathens, which is actually really strong, minus 15% CCR, plus 10% institution spread, domestic trade power and trade steering, construction discount, plus 10% national manpower, and plus 1 yearly prestige. Granada also has a pretty tiny mission tree right here that pretty much focuses on sort of kickstarting your nation before you, of course, go on to form the super powerful nation of Andalusia. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Granada. Alright, here we are as Granada, and obviously the first thing we want to do right here is secure some alliances so Portugal, Castile, or Aragon don't declare on us, and then we need to look to expand elsewhere, primarily over in the region of the Maghreb, before we become powerful enough to face any one of these guys, or all of them together, which is definitely a possibility. So, as Granada, we do start off as a NICTA, giving us plus 5% national tax and plus 33% income from vassals, and that's actually pretty good because the first thing we want to do right here is go into our government interactions and use the lenient taxation ability, which gives us plus 1 Diplorep and minus 15% liberty of desire from subjects. This is important because we want the Diplorep so we can secure alliances faster. And there we go. That's the first thing you're going to do. Next, we're going to go into our estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're going to give the Ulama Religious State, Clerical Advisory Council, Religious Diplomats, and Clerical Education. Then we're going to give the Emirs Primacy of the Emirs, Increased Levies, and Aristocratic Counselors, and we're going to give the Merchant Guilds Land of Commerce, Patronage of the Arts, Commercial Advisory Board, and Indebted to the Merchant Guilds. No Demi privileges just yet. Then you're going to seize land. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our rivals right here and rival Tlemcen and Portugal, the only available nations. Then we're going to go into our advisors and look for a Diplorep or Improved Relations Advisor, hire them even if they're a level 2. Fortunately for me, I have both of those guys and they're both level 1, so I am gonna hire this Diplorep guy. Now, something you may notice as Granada is that we do have this disaster right here, the Granadan War of Succession, which will start ticking as soon as we unpause. This disaster isn't bad at all, and it'll help us get rid of this horrible 1-1-0 ruler who's also indulgent and a babbling buffoon. And even if you don't get rid of him, at least you'll get an heir. But either way, we do sort of want to get rid of him, so we actually do want to let this disaster fire, and we do want to let the rebels win and enforce their demands. Either way, more on that later when it does fire. Now what you're going to do is you're going to start spying on Tlemcen because they are the first nation that we're going to attack. And then with this free diplomat, we're going to ally Morocco and Tunis, and then Royal Marry Morocco and improve with them up to 150 relations, since we want to get this mission done by allying Morocco. Alternatively, if you do it by not allying Morocco, you also gain prestige, but there's no need to do that. So there we go. I'm going to ally Morocco, then once this guy's back, ally Tunis, then Royal Marry Morocco, improve with them up to 150, and then once that diplomat is back, we're also going to improve with the Ottomans. Something else that we're going to do now is take this fleet, tell it to protect trade in the Sevilla trade node, and go home during war. Also, we're going to take this army right here, take the cavalry regiment, delete it, hire 1 more infantry regiment, and also hire the free company. Next, you can also turn off your forts. You'll get this event pretty soon after the game starts. Local nobles' power grows. Just select this first option right here. And by now you may have noticed that the disaster has started ticking. Don't worry, completely normal. This is what we want to happen. After you've allied and royal married Morocco, make sure to ask for military access and move your troops over to the province of Melilla. At this point, you can also go ahead and scornfully insult Castile. This will help improve our relations with Morocco quicker, and we also need to do that for this mission right here. I know it says insulted, and when you do that, you gain a general with 60 tradition, but if you scornfully insult them, which this mission doesn't tell you, you gain a general with 100 tradition. Very important. And also, once your army and free company have been recruited, you can go ahead and start building some galleys. Start building about 8 galleys, 2 in each province. It's not a guarantee that you'll get all of them built though. There we go, now a couple of months have passed. It's April 1445. I've royal married and allied Tunis, royal married and allied Morocco, moved my troops here, started building boats. Now what you can do is simply lower army maintenance and keep your forts turned off, and we're waiting for this disaster to fire and for us to get some claims on Tlemcen. And of course to improve with Morocco up to 150. There we go, just a few months later I have gotten 150 relations with Morocco. Once you do the same, you will be able to take the mission Moroccan Ties, where you gain plus 5% morale of armies. And because we've also scornfully insulted Castile, we can also take the mission Prepare for War, where we gain permaclaims on some of their provinces and a general with 100 tradition. These are the provinces we get claims on, and this is the general we get. Really good in my game right here. That's awesome. Now that we're done improving relations with Morocco, and by the way, keep spying on Tlemcen once you get a claim on them, now you'll go ahead and start improving relations with the Ottomans. You'll be able to royal marry them shortly. Now what we're waiting for is for this disaster to fire. And there we go, about 2 years after the game starts, the disaster will fire, a pretender rises to war, and we lose 10 prestige. Now the thing is, when these guys pop up, keep this fort down. Don't go and fight them. We actually want to let these guys win. If you go over here into the rebel screen, you will notice that you are not able to accept these guys' demands. So we're just going to let them siege everything. Because they'll pop out while your second batch of boats is still building, that's why I said there's not a guarantee you'll build all of them. Now, while the disaster is firing, you will gain this event, Yusuf's Ultimatum, where you can choose this first option, never, we will fight to the death, and just gain some more exhaustion, or accept his offer, and basically we gain an heir, so this guy is going to become an heir, Yusuf Nasrid. However, even if we accept these guys as offer, and the disaster ends, once we do by the way, this guy, Emir Muhammad IX Nasrid, will still be our ruler, so we'll still be stuck with this 110 guy, and anything is better than this guy. So never, we will fight to the death, and let's just wait for these guys to siege everything down. In the meantime, you can keep fabricating claims on Tlemcen. While you're waiting for this disaster to end, you should be able to secure a royal marriage with the Ottomans, and of course later, an alliance. And there we go, there's our alliance with the Ottomans secured, and now by having these 3 allies, one of which we're gonna get rid of pretty soon right here, we're safe and Castile won't declare on us. At this point, you can get rid of the Diplorep or improve relations advisor to save some money. And there we go, once the rebels siege you down, hostilities will cease and you can look to the future, gain legitimacy and gain stability, and just like that, that disaster is over, and it wasn't even really that bad. And let's see the ruler I got, he's a 504, pretty good, way better than a 110. At that point, you will also be able to take the mission Rout the Pretenders, which of course you should do, and now is when our gameplay really starts. So, what you're gonna do at this point, once the disaster is over, is go into the Show Diplomatic Feedback button and select all of Tlemcen as provinces of vital interest, just like that. And then you can go ahead and raise army maintenance, and if you want to, this is totally optional, you can hire a mill advisor, a morale, or a discipline guy if you have him. I do have a discipline guy, so I am gonna take out a loan for that and hire him. And now we're just waiting for these guys' morale to fill up. Of course, you should also put the galleys you've built right here. Now, once your ruler changes and you gain a royal marriage offer from Morocco, do not accept it. We do not want to ally Morocco again. And once your army's morale is up, it is time to declare our first war, and of course it is gonna be versus Tlemcen. 99% of the time, these guys only ally these guys right here because we've already allied Morocco and Tunis and we're rival to them. So go ahead and declare war on Tlemcen and make sure to call in Morocco because our troops are stationed in their land with the promise of land. Now, even though you've set everything as provinces of interest here, Morocco may still occupy a province or two, and that's completely okay. We don't need to give anything to them, or you can if you want to, but try and get as much as you can from Tlemcen. These 5 provinces right here are the most important, so these 3 right here and these 2. Don't worry if Morocco sieges the rest of them down, but try and siege down as much as you can yourself. So just declare for this province right here, call in Morocco with the promise of land, and if you can co-belligerent any of their allies without having someone else come in, then do it, because we are gonna vassalize whoever Tlemcen is allied to over here, even if we don't co-belligerent them. And there we go, that's your first war started. With the help of Morocco, you will be able to take down Tlemcen and their allies very easily. But remember, like I said, try and siege down as much as you can yourself. During this war, you can keep spying on Tlemcen to get sieges done a little bit faster and make sure to improve relations with allies. And once you've beaten up Tlemcen and whoever their allies are out of any of these minor guys right here, it is time to peace out. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna separate piece their allies and make them your vassal and take all of their money, no matter which one of these small guys it is and no matter how many of them there are. So there we go, I've pieced out Fezzan, now I'm gonna piece out Toghurt, and another excellent thing that can happen during this time is some of the other guys that Tlemcen isn't allied to declaring on some of the guys that Tlemcen is allied to. In my game, both Mazab and Jared have declared on Toghurt. So, by making them my vassal, I'm obviously gonna get dragged into a defensive war versus these guys, and we can take some of these provinces for ourselves or feed them to some of our vassals right here, which is perfect. This is something that we actually do want to happen. So there we go, there's a separate piece on Toghurt. I'm gonna make them my vassal and take all of their money, and now I'm in a defensive war versus Mazab and Jared. Perfect, very easy to defeat them, and you can call in your allies, of course, to help you out. In my game, I am gonna call in Morocco here, cause why not? Either way, once you're done with Tlemcen, go ahead and full annex them, and actually do not give anything to Morocco that they've sieged down. In my game, they've sieged down these two things. We're not gonna give it to them. We don't care if Morocco is mad, because after we're done with this, we're gonna break our alliance with them either way. So there's your war with Tlemcen done. Take everything that you've sieged for yourself, don't give anything to Morocco, and take all of their money. And that's your war with Tlemcen done. Now, if you're in any defensive war versus any other minor guys over here, go ahead and beat them up and feed the provinces to your vassal or take them to yourself. I do recommend giving them to your vassals just to save some admin points. And once you go ahead and defeat some of these guys, if you even got into a defensive war, if not, you're just gonna fight them regularly, just go ahead and give them to your vassals, like I said, to save some money. In my game, I'm gonna give these two provinces to Toghurt, just like that, and these two provinces right here to Fezzan, just like that. And there we go, there's one piece out and all of their money, and there's another piece out and all of their money. And just like that, your first 1 to 3 wars is done. Now it's time to chill, core up all of these provinces, work on our economy a little bit, and most importantly, break our alliance with Morocco, just like that. They're the next nation we're gonna fight. During this point, while we broke our alliance with Morocco, if they haven't allied anyone else, or even if they have, they might get declared on by Portugal or Castile or someone like that. Don't worry, that's completely normal. You shouldn't really stress about anything that Portugal or Castile might take from Morocco. During peacetime, you can once again lower army maintenance and turn off your forts to save some money. And of course, make sure to use your bigger loans to pay off your earlier, smaller loans. In my game, I got 4 new big loans to pay off the many smaller old loans. Now, I'm also gonna get indebted to the merchant guilds from the merchants once again. And with the merchant guild loans, I'm gonna pay off the regular loans. While you're waiting for a truce with Morocco to expire, start spying on them. While you're chilling at this point and while you're coring up the provinces you took from Tlemcen, while you're waiting for a truce with Morocco to expire, try and fight any guys over here that you can fight if there are any. In my game, I've already wrapped it up, but in your game, if there are any, make sure to declare on them if you can, of course. If you can't, it's totally not a big deal. Don't worry about it. As we can see, this is what happened, and it might happen in your game as well. It's not guaranteed. But pretty much Marrakesh and Sousse have declared independence on Morocco, Castile and Tunis are helping them out, and it's just Morocco and Tafilalt. So in this war, I can expect that Morocco and Tafilalt are going to lose quite a few provinces, that Marrakesh and Sousse will expand, and that Castile might nab something in this region as well. Either way, work with what you have. There's pretty much no guarantee on what will happen with Morocco once you break your alliance with them. Once you get Tech 4 in every category, it is time to activate the Encourage Development State Edict either in the state of the Barbary Coast or in the state of Algiers, and develop one of these two provinces, Oran or Mers El Kabir, in order to spawn the Renaissance. Do whichever province you want, they cost the same to develop at this point in the game. In my game, I'm gonna do Oran since that's the first province I cored and it's already stated. This isn't stated yet, so this is the province I'll be developing in order to spawn the Renaissance. And now the Independence War versus Morocco just ended in my game. These are the only provinces they ended up with, but also my truce with Morocco just expired, so I'll go ahead and declare on Morocco immediately because Portugal also just declared on them. So that's why I gotta take advantage of this quick. And of course, later on, I'll be looking for other opportunities, maybe versus Marrakesh if Castile breaks the alliance with them or something like that. Like I said, it's not guaranteed versus who you'll expand in this region, so try and take advantage of anything that you can over here to the maximum. After we've taken everything we can easily take here, then we're gonna focus elsewhere, by betraying another ally, of course. Either way, now I'm gonna be declaring on Morocco to take care of them before Portugal does. For your tier 2 government reform, you should take strength and noble privileges. Now, while I'm fighting Morocco here, I've also noticed that the Iberian wedding has already happened. Ideally, the Iberian wedding wouldn't happen, so you can fight at least some of these guys separately. But if you're unlucky, or maybe not unlucky, pretty much if you have a normal common campaign, you are gonna have to fight all 3 of these guys in the same war, because Castile will have PU'd Aragon and they'll be allied to Portugal. And now that I've defeated Morocco and their subject Tafilalt right here, what I'm gonna do is full annex Morocco, and that will also transfer the subject of Tafilalt over to me. So we're pretty much looking to expand in this region as much as we can. If of course you got lucky and in your game Morocco still looks like this, or they have all of their subjects, or they've integrated them, take as much as you can. Don't worry about aggressive expansion. Take as much as you can by focusing on the coastline first, primarily, and of course the gold mine in Tafilalt if you can get to it. Either way, there's my war with Morocco done. Now I'm gonna look to fight other nations over here in order to expand further. Of course, make sure to give out strong duchies. After you've wrapped up a war or 2 over here, look for other nations you can expand into, if there are any over here or if there are any over here. In my game right now, what I'm looking at is making Tunis break their alliance with Sousse so I can fight them, and luckily, I'm working to spy on Tlemcen because they've been guaranteed by Marrakesh, and that's how I can end up fighting Marrakesh even though they're allied to Castile. So try and work around some of these alliances. If you've already expanded as much as you can over here and there's no nation you can realistically fight, basically only Portugal or Castile or someone like that is left over here, it is time for you to break your alliance with Tunis and get ready to fight them as well. Which of course I'm going to show you how to do later on once I fight Tunis, but for now, for me, I still have a little bit of expanding over in the area that Morocco used to own. Right now, we're still not thinking about Portugal, Castile, or Aragon, or anything like that. We want to work on taking over this region right here as much as we can, maybe even expanding into Egypt with the help of the Ottomans before we fight any of these guys here. Make sure to state everything and lower autonomy whenever you can. This will help us make more money. And keep building up your fleet from time to time. I've constructed one more light ship, as we can see. I'm building up one more transport, a couple of more galleys. Slowly but surely, we're improving our fleet. Once you build up a pretty sizable fleet, and you have a fleet equal or larger than that of Portugal's, you will be able to take this mission right here, and you should do it. Keep taking lenient taxation until you've annexed any subjects that you might have here. After you're done with the subjects, this is probably the best one to go with for the CCR. But I still have subjects, so I'm gonna go with this. Once you hit Admin Tech 5, it will be time for your first idea group, and as Granada and later Andalusia, I do feel like you have a couple of choices. Now keep in mind, Granadan ideas or missions right here, they don't have anything related to colonization. But later, when you form Andalusia, we do have missions and a national idea as well that does focus on colonization. Now, you don't strictly have to do that, even though we have those ideas and missions. So, if you do want to end up going with colonial Andalusia later on, and you want to do some colonization as a Muslim Iberian nation instead of any of these guys right here, then of course you should open up with exploration and then take expansion for your second idea group. However, if you're not planning on going colonial, or maybe going colonial later by colonizing a bit later, stealing Portugal and Castile's colonies or something like that, then you can of course take those idea groups later and open up with something else. Either way, if you're not opening up with exploration and then expansion, what I recommend for your first idea group is quality ideas. For example, in my game right here, I'm not going to be colonizing at all as Andalusia. So, quality ideas is good for improving our army. Obviously, it'll help versus these guys right here. The combat modifiers are pretty good along with the discipline, and of course the boat stuff won't hurt us either because these guys, as we all know, have super powerful navies. So this will help in both of those spheres. That's why I'll be taking quality ideas. You'll be doing the same if you're not taking exploration. After that, you can focus on dip or mill, depending on what you took. Now that my truce with Tlemcen has expired, I'll be declaring on them in order to fight Marrakesh and Sousse as well without fighting their allies Castile and Tunis. So that's what I'm going to be doing right here, and of course I am going to call in Tunis to help me out with that. So there we go, there's our declaration. I'm just going to declare Reconquest for Tafilalt's core Figwig right here, and I'm going to be taking as much as I can from Marrakesh while full annexing Sousse and Tlemcen. We're still expanding in this region as much as we can without fighting Portugal or Castile, and if you're done with that, you're expanding into Tunis. For your first stage ability, I recommend taking Justified Wars. Now, while you're sort of expanding over in this region, you should try, and this is not guaranteed at all, in fact, it's more likely likely that it won't happen rather than that it will, but you should try and ally another Castilian rival. Some of these guys right here, in my game it's France and England, and let me take a look at that. So England right here, if we're not at war, we're about 120 off, seems pretty unlikely, but with France, if we're not at war, we're only about 60 off, so I am gonna try and improve relations with France as much as I can. Maybe I'll be able to ally them. Sometimes you can do this, usually you can't, but it doesn't hurt to try. And there we go, my war with all of these guys is done. What I'm gonna do first right here is peace out Sus, give these two provinces, which are Tafilalt cores, back to Tafilalt, and I'm gonna take these two provinces myself. Like I said, we don't really care about aggressive expansion when fighting any of the guys in the Morocco region or Tlemcen or these guys right here or Tunis. No one will get mad. So there's my first peace out and all of their money. Next, I'm gonna peace out Marrakesh right here by taking these two provinces, this core back to Tafilalt. As we can see, I'm taking the gold mine in Tafilalt myself, which is pretty important. I'm also taking the coastline here, and I'm also making them end their alliance with Castile. They'll be left in just these four provinces right here, and we can fight them later when our truce is up. There we go. And my final piece out on Tlemcen, I'll be giving this core back to Tafilalt and taking this province for myself, and just like that, we're done. As you can see, quite a lot of aggressive expansion that we got in this war, but literally no one cares. Only Tunis is slightly mad, and we don't care because they're our ally, and then whoever is left right here may be a little bit mad, but it's no big deal. And with that, I've pretty much wrapped up my conquest over in this region because my truce with Marrakesh is super long and the rest of the provinces here are owned by Portugal and Castile. That means now it will be time for me to break my alliance with Tunis. Once again, just like with Morocco, if you break your alliance with Tunis, they may get declared on by some of these guys right here and they may get provinces taken from them. Don't worry, that's completely normal. We'll just clean up anything that is left after our truce with them has expired. So there we go. Now that I'm done with this, it's time to dissolve my alliance with Tunis and start spying on them so we can fight them as well. If 10 years have passed after you vassalized any of these guys, and if you have relations with them, you're good to go ahead and annex them. Just make sure to give out the integration policy to the emirs before that. Now I just annexed Togur. Of course, once you do acquire the gold mine in Tafilalt right here, make sure to full state it and activate the Encourage Development State Edict and to develop this gold mine up to 10 production. Very important, and that's when you'll really start making money, because you may have been struggling before that. Don't forget the lower autonomy either. Once your truce with Tunis is up after you broke your alliance with them, it is time to declare our first war versus them, and we'll have to do 1 to 2 wars versus them depending on if anyone else takes any provinces from them. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare. Except in my game right here, what they've done is they've allied the Mamluks, which is something that's actually really rare and probably not something you're gonna encounter in your game. So that makes the war with Tunis super annoying, when in fact it should be a pretty easy war, just like the one you did with Morocco. Either way, I'm pretty lucky in my game that the Ottomans are willing to help me out right here, so we'll just white piece the Mamluks or take some money from them or something like that, and then we'll take as much as we can or as much as we want from Tunis. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare on Tunis. Hopefully they won't have allied the Mamluks in your game like they did with mine. Like I said, something like this happening is pretty rare. Of course, if Tunis is allied to the Ottomans, what you're going to do is you're going to curry favors with the Ottomans to make them break their alliance with Tunis. So either way, here's my declaration on Tunis. In our first war with them right here, if they still have these provinces, we're primarily focusing on taking the centers of trade away from them and then anything else that we can. Whenever you can take the mission Restore Faith in the Throne, you should go ahead and do it. Basically, your ruler, actually your heir, I'm sorry, gets points, so definitely go ahead and take it immediately to bump up your heir. As you can see, during this war, I've annexed Fezzan, I pieced out the Mamluks, made them break their alliance with Tunis, and took war ups from them. Either way, for your tier 3 government reform, I recommend Expanded Royal Court, or if you're going to be playing with subjects, basically releasing like Leon, Valencia, Catalonia right here, Galicia, anyone from Iberia, and if you plan to expand with subjects any further than that, and of course we already are playing with subjects, in that case you should go with representatives of the crown. So, no subjects, Expanded Royal Court, subjects, representatives of the crown. Now my war with Tunis is pretty much done. Even with the Ottomans as help, I still can't cross over to Jerba in order to siege it down, which is an important province that you do want to take, by the way, so focus on it if you can. So that's why I'm going to peace out. Let's not wait for them to unconditionally surrender. So like I said, focus on the centers of trade first, which are these 3 provinces, along with Jerba right here, which of course they won't give to me. And then after you've taken those 4 centers of trade, then you can take pretty much whatever you want. So I'm just going to take these provinces right here, keep expanding over here, the fort in Kef, since it's super annoying. And there we go, something like this. This is as much as I can take. And then if these provinces still exist later on, I'll be taking those too. Additionally, you could not take these provinces right here and simply focus on the coastline or something like that to prevent someone else from taking them, but either way it doesn't matter. There's my peace deal. And there we go. You've taken more than half of Tunis in one war. If they still exist later on, you'll finish them off. Now, once you've pretty much conquered everything over here, or there are just some minor nations left that you're waiting for truces, it is time to start figuring out a strategy on how we're going to fight Portugal, Castile, and Aragon. So definitely take a look at their army strength, take a look at their alliances, take a look at their subjects and stuff like that, and figure out if you're actually powerful enough to go ahead and face them. If you're not, you're going to continue to expand elsewhere still. So you're going to fight the Mamluks or someone like that, grow even more in Egypt, look for allies over here. Like I said, France is an option, rarely, but it is an option. And then you're going to come back to these guys whenever you feel strong enough. But while you're at peace, focus on your economy and building up your army and navy. If at any point you're over gov cap or almost over gov cap, definitely make sure to give some of the estates that have the least influence the governing capacity privileges. Once your economy has finally stabilized after taking the gold mine and after your loans are pretty big, you can start working on constructing buildings. And of course, the first thing you're going to want to do is build the marketplaces in all of the center of trade provinces. That'll give you control over Sevilla, Safi, Tunis, and whatnot. So I'm going to start constructing just that. For example, there's a marketplace in Tlemcen right there. There's already one in this province down here, so let's build one over here. Of course, make sure to build them in your subjects as well. You are going to be getting those provinces yourself. So build the marketplaces first, after that focus on churches and workshops. Right now I can notice something. Castile declared a war on Naples in order to PU them, but it seems that France right here, even though they're not allied to Naples, has intervened. So this is the war that Castile and Aragon are in right now versus Naples and France. Now, Castile and Aragon aren't pushovers. Together they have about 60k troops, but France is looking pretty strong as well. So this might be a really good time for me to declare on them, or maybe even declare on Portugal in case Castile isn't willing to join, and more importantly, England already isn't willing to join. So look out for opportunities like this. We already have claims on Portugal and Castile, so you could pretty much declare at any moment. Either way, this is what I'm sort of looking at for right now. And of course, you're never going to declare without the Ottomans' help. Like this, we could fight these guys. Like this, we could also fight them. But let's see how this war plays out, and let's see what happens. Keep in mind, you don't have to declare on these guys right now in the 1480s or 1490s like in my game or something like that. Declare whenever you're ready or whenever you have the opportunity. Either way, for your second age ability, I recommend Adaptive Combat Terrain to help you out with some battles in mountains. Like I said, make sure to build up your fleet significantly in preparation for your war with these guys. They have way stronger fleets than you anyway, so it might be useless, but either way, go ahead and try. And by the way, nothing came of the fact that I was waiting for this war. France got easily white-pieced, and then Castile did manage to PU Naples. So this is probably one of the more annoying Castiles that you could face that has Aragon and Naples as junior partners, is allied to Portugal as well. But what could be even more annoying right here is them being allied to France or Austria, which of course is going to make the wars with them super annoying, and you're definitely going to need additional allies along with the Ottomans. Luckily, that hasn't happened in my game. Something that you should do after you gain a border with the Mamluks is spy on them in order to get a claim. Obviously, we want to be the ones that are going to be declaring on the Mamluks instead of helping out the Ottomans in their war versus them. So we basically want to control the Ottomans' truce with the Mamluks. So that's why I'm going to spy on the Mamluks now. You're doing this even if you're preparing or not preparing, or fighting or not fighting these guys just yet. Now that my truce with Marrakesh is up, I'll declare on them, and I'll also reset my truce with Tunis. Like I said, if you still can't fight these guys, you're just cleaning up anyone over here, or maybe even fighting the Mamluks. And now that my war with Marrakesh is done, I'll be full annexing them. Now, because I'm still not ready to declare on Castile, I don't feel like my ally, the Ottomans, is powerful enough, and they have a pretty strong alliance block themselves, I'll continue my expansion elsewhere, pretty much in the Mamluks, which is what you're going to be doing as well. No matter if you're fighting these guys or not, you're either way going to be fighting the Mamluks, like I said, to control the Ottomans as truce with them. So let's declare on the Mamluks right here for the conquest of Benghazi. I'm going to call in the Ottomans. You can give the Ottomans provinces in this war if you want to. It's totally up to you. And there we go. Just make sure to not take any provinces that are Ottomans provinces of vital interest in these war. And once you've pretty much defeated the Mamluks, what you're going to focus on taking in your first war versus them is provinces in these three areas right here. So what I'm going to take is all of these provinces right there, and then we'll focus on expanding some more into them later on, and I'm also going to get war reps and as much money as I can. And that's my first war with the Mamluks done. You can take as little or as much as you want. Once you hit admin deck 7, it will be time for your second idea group, and if you opened up with exploration, of course you're going to take expansion for your second one, since you're going to be colonizing. However, if you opened up with quality, just like I did, then for your second idea group, I recommend admin ideas. Admin is going to be really good because of the minus 25% core creation cost. It's going to mesh very well with the core creation cost cost that we already have in our national ideas. All the advisor bonuses are great as well, along with the monthly autonomy change, the admin tech discount, and very importantly, of course, the plus 20% governing capacity, which we will be utilizing quite a lot. So, very nice expansion-focused idea group, and it meshes very well with our national ideas as Granada and later Andalusia, so admin ideas for your second idea group. For your naval doctrine, if you still haven't fought Castile and all of those Iberian nations, I do recommend galley combat ability, which will help you out in your missions versus them. But after you take care of them, I do recommend swapping to Grand Armada, which is actually really powerful, especially if you're colonizing too for the treasure fleet income. But for now, free Oarsmen. Right now, I'm also going to annex Tafilol, my final subject. Don't forget to lower autonomy periodically, very helpful. You will end up fighting some rebels, but it is something you do have to do. Right now I've just annexed Tafilol and I'm waiting for the Ottomans to end a war or two over here, and after that I think I'll be ready to fight Castile and Portugal finally. Like I said earlier, it's really no rush for fighting these guys. But in the meantime, however, I will be declaring on Tunis because my truce with them is up and because the Mamluks won't help them out, even though they've re-allied each other. So it's time to finish off Tunis. And now my war with Tunis is done and I'll be full annexing them, and just like that, in a very chill fashion, we've pretty much conquered the entirety of the Maghreb, maybe with the exception of stuff that Portugal or Castile owns, or maybe you were more lucky with the alliance or PU situation in your game and you've already fought a bunch of these guys and already formed Andalusia. In which case, great, that's awesome for you. In my game, I'll be declaring on them pretty soon. At this point, I can also upgrade to a kingdom just like that and take my tier 4 government reform, and depending on what you're going with, whether converting or being tolerant, and by the way, I do recommend staying tolerant due to Granada's missions, national ideas, and Andalusia's missions and national ideas, you don't really need to convert, but the choice is totally up to you. So, if you are going down the religious conversion path, strengthen the ulama. If you're going down the tolerance path, maintain the balance of power. Of course, during this time, you're not only focusing on conquest, focus on building buildings as well, which is what I'm doing right now. And in my game right here, I'm finally sorta ready to declare a war on these guys. Sure, they're not involved in anything else, and they're pretty powerful, but the Ottomans will help me, and Savoy, my newfound ally, will also help me. I did also ally Bohemia and Akkuyunlu in the hopes that I can get them to help out as well, but they're not really willing to. Either way, whenever everything seems right, go ahead and declare on Castile or Portugal or Aragon, whoever is the easiest to fight. In my game, I have to fight all of them at the same time, and simply go ahead and declare. Keep in mind that the start of this war, no matter who you're fighting, is going to be slightly annoying until the Ottomans can get their troops over to this location. Obviously, they'll be helping you out, but they're pretty far away, so you are going to have to wait for them to come. Until they come though, be careful and choose your battles carefully. Now, while you're in this war, you may notice that these are sort of the provinces right here that we want to take in order to form Andalusia, basically all of the provinces that it tells us to take over here. Now, you are going to have to take all of the highlighted provinces from Castile, so all of these southern ones right here, and then you have to have one of either these two or these two to form Andalusia. What I recommend is actually taking these two from Portugal right here, because from over here we are going to be releasing the nation of Valencia to reconquer their course from Aragon and stuff like that. So if you can do this, taking everything from Castile and then these two from Portugal, do it. However, if it's easier for you to just take these two from Aragon, then definitely go ahead and do that. There's no strict rules right here, although I do think it's slightly better in the way that I described it. By the way, I did bomb this fort. I'm going to be bombing this fort as well, and I'm going to try and pretty much win every battle that comes my way over in the Maghreb. I'm not going to be crossing over to Iberia just yet, even if they siege down my provinces, until the Ottomans arrive to help out. As you can see, this war is pretty stalematey. I'm just stuck right here, not being able to cross, fighting some Portuguese, Castilian, and Aragonese armies that do cross. Savoy has been pieced out. The Ottomans are working on this region right here, and there are a bunch of battles over in this region pretty much. So unless you can cross right here or walk your way around or something like that, or unless this war is easier for you and you're just fighting one of these guys that I'm fighting right now, then it's gonna look pretty much like this. Right now, what I'm waiting for is the white piece Portugal, and then I'll really try and go for Castile and Aragon. Alternatively, if we're fighting Portugal, white piece these guys, then really go for them. There are a bunch of different combinations at play over here. And after white piecing Portugal, I was finally able to cross, and I just defeated the Castilian and Navarrese armies over in Malaga, thanks to this giving me more combat bonuses in the terrain of my capital, and because I am a Miltech ahead of them. I took Miltech 9 even without embracing colonialism. So after you white piece some of these guys and after you're lucky to be able to cross, that is when you'll really start picking things up. So it's time to go bomb some forts. A bit earlier I took Sevilla, now I just took Toledo, but I actually did get beat up by this army, and now I might get stack wiped right here by this army since I shadow retreated to Toledo. It is time for me to go ahead and peace out. A very annoying and very tedious war. Hopefully you guys won't have as much trouble as I did, but most likely you're still gonna end up fighting Castile, Aragon, and Portugal in the same war unless you were super lucky with alliances and with Castile not PUing Aragon. Either way, in my peace deal versus Portugal, I didn't take anything since I wanted to get them out as fast as possible. So right now, this is what I'm gonna take from Castile. Pretty much all of the provinces that I need specifically from them in order to form the nation of Andalusia. And just like that, my war with Castile is done. Hopefully you can take a little bit more in your initial war versus these guys, and you'll be able to form Andalusia from the provinces you take from just one war versus all of these guys right here. Either way, after you do that, you will be able to take the mission Liberate Cordoba, where you gain 100 admin points and some other bonuses. Now that I've stabilized my country a bit, I will be declaring on Portugal right here, even though my core on Ceuta has expired, in order to take over some provinces over here to finally form Andalusia, because they're no longer allied to Castile, which is absolutely perfect. Now keep in mind, even though Portugal will more often be allied to England rather than Castile, since there is a pretty high chance of these guys' alliance getting broken in various wars between these nations over here, even if they're allied to England, this war is still super easily winnable. Either you're just gonna go ahead and stand on Ceuta right here and not let them cross until you get the war score, or you're simply gonna siege down everything over in Portugal, which should be very easily doable after you take care of some stuff over here, or even before, depending on the alliances. I think you've noticed by now that pretty much the opening and the conquest of the Maghreb and the Mamluks and the alliance with the Ottomans and being defensive, that's all pretty standard, and very little RNG is involved in that. But after you take care of everything over here, when and how you're gonna fight these guys depends on everyone's game, and it's different in everyone's game. So just work to the best of your abilities around these alliances and with allies to help you beat them up. Either way, there's my declaration on Portugal for the conquest of the Algarve. I'm not gonna call in anyone because I can't call in anyone, even though these guys have twice the amount of troops that I have. Trust me, this is a very easily winnable war. Very little force to siege down. England won't really ferry troops at that hard, and even if they do, you can just beat them up. So there's my declaration on Portugal. And in fact, France has also joined this war. I think they intervened because there's one great power on one side and then two great powers on the other, even though I can't seem to see England here. But yeah, France intervened for some reason. There's no way for me to find out how, but I think that's what they did. So that's great. Excellent. Easy war for me, even though I don't really need their help and they won't even really do anything. And a good thing about fighting all of these guys later is that even though they'll have massive armies, their armies won't necessarily be here. Now, Portugal has a 33k sized stack, right? Where is it? It's not over here. They were fighting a war versus some natives before I declared on them. So for all we know, all of their armies are over in South America or Central America or something like that. And you guys know how much Castile loves to put their armies on tiny islands. So you have that going for you as well. There we go. I've sieged down all of Portugal. I only encountered one 1k stack, which isn't even showing up here, even though I did beat it up. And France has actually managed to land over in England, which is super nice. Look, England has a 44k stack and 38 boats. Where are those stacks? Where are those boats? So there is an argument to be made here for actually fighting these guys later when they're busy in the New World with conquering natives. In my game, I just pieced out England for money and war reps, and unfortunately the Ottomans did call me into this right here. Like I said, you want to avoid having the Ottomans call you in versus the Mamluks. Now, this isn't really that, since they called me into a war versus Karaman that's allied to the Mamluks, but still, you want to avoid stuff like this. Instead, you want to declare your wars versus the Mamluks and have the Ottomans come in and help out and hopefully not give them anything. Or maybe you can give them stuff over here if you're not interested in expanding there. Either way, once you fight Portugal, of course you're going to take back your core in Ceuta and at least these two provinces right here, which are needed to form Andalusia. And I'm actually going to call it right about there, since otherwise I would get a massive coalition. And I'm also going to get war reps and all of their money. And that's my war with Portugal done. After you retake Ceuta, you will be able to take this mission where a center of trade gets created in Ceuta. Actually, pretty powerful. And once you've taken all the necessary provinces to form Andalusia, you should of course go ahead and do it right away, no waiting around. And just like that, we are the nation of Andalusia. We will take new traditions and ambitions. We're no longer an ICTA, we're an Andalusian Sultanate, which is really strong as well. Gives us +1 tolerance of heathens, -10% idea cost, and +2 maximum tolerance of heathens, which is, like I said, the way you lean into the whole tolerant thing. There's really no need to convert a lot of stuff as Andalusia. And of course, we gain their super powerful national ideas, +15% morale of armies, which is absolutely insane as a starter, +25% ship trade power, +10% goods produced as a finisher, really powerful. And in the meantime, we have -15% fire damage received, +100% vassal force limit contributions, so the game does sort of want you to play with subjects, +3 tolerance of heathens, another -10% idea cost, along with the one that we have from our government right here, super strong, +15% national manpower and -15% court creation cost, a colonist, that's where the whole colonization thing comes in, and of course +10% fort defense and -25% fort maintenance on border with rival. And Andalusian ideas are obviously super strong. You may be able to take some of them right off the bat that give you further claims. This entire portion at the top, the sorta around here, focuses on conquests, along with this portion right here, and these couple of missions down here focus on us colonizing. As we can see, we gain a conquistador. The game wants us to conquer in the Caribbean, in Africa, in the Ivory Coast. So those are sort of the mini colonization missions. Along with the colonist you gain from your national ideas, you can totally choose to focus on that. Go exploration expansion for your first and second or third and fourth idea groups, and move on with colonization and pretty much replace Portugal, Castile / Spain, and Aragon. But if not, you're going to continue with the regular conquest gameplay by, well, trying to take over as much as possible. And by around the time you form Andalusia, which honestly for a lot of you should be a bit earlier than this, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we start off as Granada in these 4 provinces right here. Start off by allying Morocco, Tunis, and working on an alliance with the Ottomans, waiting for that disaster to fire, letting it fire, letting the disaster guys win, then declaring war on Tlemcen, taking as much as we could from Tlemcen, everything that we occupied, not giving anything to Morocco, and potentially vassalizing any of the minor nations that were located over here that Tlemcen could have been allied to. And maybe you got yourself in a defensive war with some of these guys, and you should have worked on getting rid of the rest of them, the ones that you could, that Tunis hadn't already taken care of. But after wrapping up Tlemcen and some of these minor guys right here, you should of course broken your alliance with Morocco, and you should have focused on conquering as much as you can over here, depending of course on Morocco's alliances, what their subjects did and stuff like that. Some other nations may get involved over here like it happened in my game, and Castile and Portugal may have also expanded a bit over in this region while you were waiting for your truce with Morocco to expire, but no big deal. You should have wrapped up everyone that you could have over here. So after dealing with these guys and with these guys, you should have turned your back on Tunis as well, fought Tunis too, and you should have of course fought the Mamluks as well with the help of the Ottomans. Of course, like I mentioned many times in this guide, you should declare your own wars versus the Mamluks and not let the Ottomans declare the wars and you just help them out. You should declare on the Mamluks and get the Ottomans to help out. That's how you control how much you take over here. And of course, be careful not to take any provinces in the initial wars that the Ottomans have marked as provinces of interest, because otherwise they might break their alliance with you. And of course, you do need their help for your major wars, which are versus the Iberian nations, Portugal, Castile, and Aragon. So everything that you did up until the point that you fight these guys is pretty much what all of you guys are gonna do, but depending on what the alliance situation is looking like over here, what the Iberian wedding situation is looking like, the wars versus these guys are different for anyone else. Of course, if you got super lucky and maybe like the 1470s or something like that with some very easy alliance chains over here, you could have fought any of these nations if you had the opportunity to do so. I did do it pretty late in my game. Usually I am able to fight these guys by the 1500s, but I just couldn't get the Ottomans reliably to help out because they were busy with other wars, and because Castile got Aragon and Naples pretty early and they kept their alliance with Portugal, which luckily now has been dissolved. But after dealing with all of this right here, that's when you should start focusing on this area and this area simultaneously. And of course, in whichever war you fought versus whichever one of these guys over here, you should have initially worked to take the provinces that you need to form Andalusia, which are all of these provinces over here from Castile, and then either these 2 provinces or these 2 provinces from Portugal or Aragon. Like I said, you should try to take these provinces from Portugal if you can, since we're going to be releasing Valencia from here. But if you can't take these provinces from Portugal, if they're a harder nation to fight for some reason than Castile or Aragon, then you can definitely take these provinces from Aragon and then form Andalusia. And of course, after you formed Andalusia, you took their ideas, took their mission tree, and you should continue expanding in the same direction we've already been expanding in. So after you took care of all of this and after you formed Andalusia, you're pretty much going to go in the same directions. You're going to continue focusing on the Mamluks. What we're primarily interested over in this region right here is sort of the region of Egypt and the Alexandria trade node. So this is mainly what you should focus on taking. If you want, you can go further by conquering Aleppo, Basra, and so on, depending on what your goals for the campaign are. But Alexandria is the trade node and Egypt is the region we're primarily interested in. Over in this direction, of course. In Iberia, of course, you're going to work on taking over the entirety of it, and later in your wars versus these guys, there are a bunch of nations that you can pop out, and after that, in your next wars, work on reconquering their cores. We have Leon right here, definitely release them and reconquer their cores. We have Galicia up here that you could do, that's an optional one. We also have Asturias, that's an optional one. We have Valencia in these 4 provinces, Catalonia in these 4 provinces. So Leon, Valencia, and Catalonia are nations that you have to do, and you can do Galicia and Asturias if you want, and of course the rest of these provinces you're going to be taking care of yourself. But after you wrapped up the Maghreb, Egypt, and Iberia, the choices are totally up to you where you expand. These are sort of the main 3 regions that you sort of have to take over as Andalusia, but after that it's totally up to you. You could push into the Sahel, maybe take control of some of the super valuable gold mines over here. If you're colonizing, you can go for Guinea over here, make it a trade company or something like that. You could push into the Horn of Africa, once again more gold. You could push on into Europe as well, conquer Italy, conquer France, maybe even fight the Ottomans later on. The choices are totally up to you whether you do decide to colonize or not. But after forming Andalusia, like I said, focus on Egypt and Alexandria and focus on Iberia and the Sevilla trade node. But after that, what you do is totally up to you. Of course, during this point, we haven't only been focusing on expanding in these regions that I just mentioned. After the initial 15 or 20 years after you get the gold mine in Tafilalt, you should have worked to improve your economy as well. I'm going to show you what I've built in my game so far, and you should have looked to have built something similar by this point in your game. These are all the marketplaces that I've built in all of the center of trade and estuary provinces. As we can see, I can put down 2 more down here in pretty important provinces that we took from the Mamluks earlier on. After you get the marketplaces done, of course, you should work on building mosques in all of the provinces that give you more than 1.0 ducats a month. Then after that, you should work on building workshops in all the high value trade good provinces such as cloth, salt, copper, iron, ivory, spices, sugar. You get the point. Pretty much every trade good that its value is higher than 2. And of course, after you get those basic buildings down that focus on your economy, you should work to build some barracks, you should work to build some manufactories when you unlock them, and you should definitely work on upgrading centers of trade, even the one that we spawned over in Ceuta. I haven't done any of that in my game since I've been focusing primarily on buildings, but make sure to bump all of these centers of trade up to level 2. Sevilla starts off as your main home node. Of course, you will be collecting there for the entirety of the campaign, even if you do colonize or not. However, if you do decide on expanding over in France and in Italy, you are going to want to make Genoa your end node and route everything to there. Right now we have merchants transferring from Safia and Tunis to Sevilla. Later when you get another merchant somehow, make sure to collect in Alexandria as well, because Alexandria doesn't route to over there. It goes directly to Genoa, and basically you'll be rearranging your merchants. This is what my army size looks like by now. Pretty big force limit of 72, but I only have 1 stack since I was focusing on that war, and I do need to get my manpower back up. But right now, according to the combat width, which is 25, my army should be 25/7. It's 24/7, so there we go. There's another unit right there, and I also have the free company helping out a bit. Of course, we should have a couple of fleets as well for protecting trade and for battles. Mine got wiped pretty often since it was weaker than pretty much all of the nations that I did fight, but I have 10 light ships here protecting trade in Sevilla. Later on, I'm going to put some more guys to protect trade in various other trade nodes that I have control over, and of course, I'm going to build up this fleet significantly as well. I'm going to keep it galleys only until I wipe out some more of these guys, maybe the Italian nations as well. And like I said, don't forget to swap over to the Grand Armada once you're done dealing with the annoying navally powerful nations. So definitely make sure to build up this fleet later on. Of course, if you did go down the colonization branch, you are going to colonize a little bit, pretty much the same things that you would colonize as Portugal or Castile. Focus on everything south of pretty much Mexico, so Mexico and South America. Maybe you can get into Africa as well, get some trade companies established over here in the Ivory Coast, then here in the Cape, in Zanzibar, maybe even going over to India if that's what you wish. But definitely make sure to follow along with your Andalusian mission tree. It is pretty good. It does give various claims around the region that we're playing in. As we can see, we need to conquer all of the Mediterranean islands from Aragon. Then we need to focus on Sicily as well. We got some Moroccan and Tunisian missions right here, Egypt, Arabian missions right here in the Levant, in Iraq and stuff like that, and even pushing as far as this region over here in Persia, and of course some missions over here are colonization focused, some are development focused, you will get this mission tree done. Even though it's super short, it is very, very sweet. Of course, something that I didn't mention earlier on in the game because it wasn't too relevant for us are the great projects, and most importantly, the great project that we already start off with, the Alhambra, which is at tier 1. It gives us plus 10% income from vassals and minus 5% liberty to Azarian subjects, which makes playing Granada and Andalusia even better with subjects, with all the modifiers that we already have from other things. But more importantly, later on, we're going to get super rich, and when you're going to upgrade it, we also gain plus 1 diplo rep at tier 2, and at tier 3 we also gain plus 5% admin efficiency, which is really, really strong. Definitely make sure to upgrade the Alhambra. You're going to be utilizing the Bellem Tower as well, because you're going to have a powerful navy even if you are or not colonizing, and the El Escorial is pretty powerful as well. Make sure to build that up, especially if you're colonizing. If not, you don't need to focus on it, even though the gov cap is pretty nice. And then of course we have this palace right here. This one is decent as well, although not that useful for a tolerant nation such as us, but the Eid Benadu is super important, and the holy city of Kairouan is pretty good. So these two are the most important ones that you're going to want to build up right here. These will help us out the most, and then these other ones aren't that bad either. And of course, there are some additional monuments down here that you can definitely take advantage of if you want to. They are pretty good, especially Petra and the pyramids. This is what we took for our first two idea groups: quality and admin. Pretty good for buffing up our army and navy, because we are weaker than any nation we want to fight right at the start. And then admin, which is really helpful for a massive expansion campaign, which you're most likely going to have as Andalusia. These are the idea groups that we took if we weren't colonizing. If you were colonizing, you of course took exploration expansion. After exploration expansion, you could totally go with these two, or even if you want to colonize now later on, you could now go exploration expansion. So you definitely have a couple of combinations to take a look at. But if you aren't colonizing at all after quality and admin, I do recommend picking up another mill idea group such as offensive, for example. And then for your fourth idea group, you could go diplo or influence to lean into the conquest portion of the game even more, or you could go trade or economic to lean into the making money portion of the game even more. So those are a couple of idea group picks, or a couple of idea group variations that you could go through for your Granada to Andalusia campaign. This is what we took for our first 4 government reforms for tier 5. We do have a semi-unique one right here, Volunteers of the Faith, although I don't think it's really that powerful, so I instead recommend organized military staff a little bit more, or military engineering. For tier 6, I recommend aristocratic court. Later, when absolutism spawns, swap to royal decree. For tier 7, I recommend meritocratic recruitment. For tier 8, I recommend empowering the burghers, or embracing the economic theory, unless you're colonizing. In that case, you can go with exploitation of the New World. For tier 9, I recommend the 6 Books of the Republic, or the social contract, which will give you heretic and heathen provinces, do not give any penalties, although it's not really that necessary since we already have a super high tolerance as Andalusia. And then for tier 10 and tier 11, all of them are really good. Take whichever one you want at that point in the game. You won't make a mistake with either one of them. And like I said, around the time you form Andalusia, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is gonna go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Andalusia from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.